This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, freed from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Excellent. Yeah, okay. So the one thing whenever we... you going to come back again later? Okay, one thing which you know that I was always taught, whatever you do to try and put as much energy into it as possible. So that's why the three sadhus, where they came from, is one of Ajahn Chah's teachings. And this particular teaching was not really known by many people because it was told to me by this businessman from Sydney. This businessman from Sydney came to see me after I came to Australia, and he told me that he managed to meet Ajahn Chah just in the last year of Ajahn Chah's life, and he always wanted to ask these questions of what he considered to be a great master. And so he managed to get an aircraft from Sydney to Bangkok, from Bangkok to Ubon, and from Ubon to Warin, and Warin, a taxi to Wat Pah Pong. And when he finally got there, he found Ajahn Chah was surrounded by so many people. And what really upset him a bit, there was no way that you could actually get close to Ajahn Chah. And people were asking him what he thought were all sorts of silly questions, about the world, but nothing which was really spiritual. And he had come with these questions which were important to him. And he travelled all the way just to ask these questions, and then he would go back home to Sydney again. And the questions were unanswered. So that after an hour or two, sitting there waiting for a turn and no turn even coming close to him, then he decided there was no much point, the trip was wasted. So he went back to his taxi to get the lift back to the airport. But then he found out that the taxi hadn't arrived yet. He had another half an hour to, basically time to kill, as they say here in Australia. But then he saw some monks doing some sweeping, so he picked up a broom and he started sweeping as well. And then as he was sweeping, so he told me, he felt a hand on his shoulder and he wondered what the heck that was. He turned around and saw it was Ajahn Chah's. Ajahn Chah had noticed he'd come such a long way, hadn't had a chance to ask a question. So Ajahn Chah got up from his seat. He was going to another appointment, and on his way to Ajahn Chah's own car, he stopped by this Westerner, this Aussie, and he said to him, through the translator, if you're going to sweep, give it everything you've got. And then Ajahn Chah left. A very quick teaching. But this businessman later on told me that teaching changed his whole life. On the aircraft back home to Australia, he realized that he wasn't just talking about sweeping, he was talking about the whole of his life. If you are resting, like sleeping at night time, give sleep everything you've got. Don't go planning what you're going to do in the morning. If you wake up and have a breakfast, make sure your breakfast, you give it everything you've got. You're really mindful and in the moment. When you go to work, or you're driving your car to work, give driving everything you've got. You don't think about what's going to happen when you get to the office. And when you're in the office, give the office work everything you've got. And don't think about the family. At lunchtime, give your lunch everything you've got. It's not the work time. And eventually when you're in the evening with your family, give your family everything you've got. And so it meant that it was teaching him to really be in this moment and give lots of energy to every moment, no matter what you're supposed to do, no matter how tired you are. And he said that changed his whole life. It made him a successful meditator, because when it was time to meditate, he wouldn't worry about what he had to do next, or about the office or anything else. He was just watching his breathing and just meditating with full attention. And when he was working or sending an email, he gave that email everything he got. Just focused on one thing at a time. When it was time to relax with his family were important. And he didn't think about work or about anything else. He said that changed his whole life and made him a very successful businessman and a very happy family man and a very good meditator. A simple teaching which he put into practice and understood really well. And that's something which I always have to do. There's many things. As a monk, it's not an easy life in the sense of you can sit around all day and do nothing. There's many things which you have to perform during one day. But if you give everything you got to everything you have on your plate, you find you have so much energy. The idea of energy and health and being someone who can actually serve and give and produce for others, that is one of those things which in this world we want to find out. It's really important. Each one of you have jobs somewhere in the world. If it's not actually being employed by someone, it's volunteering, it's setting up the internet for the Armadale group every week. There's so many other stuff which we do all the time. But now, how can we be a bit more productive without getting so tired? Over the whole world, people keep telling me that there's too much sort of negativity and tiredness. People don't have the energy which they think they should have. So how can we create that energy? By putting 100% attention to whatever we're doing. And of course, I think some of you, I hope, were logging into our Wesak celebration, which we did at Noramara on the weekend. I had come back from Singapore on the Thursday. I was really tired out. I've been speaking so much, I did have a sore throat. I told people I lost my voice, but I found it again. But I really found that voice on the Wesak celebrations. A sensible monk, well, I wouldn't say sensible, a normal monk would have just said, oh no, I need to take a rest. But instead of taking a rest, I did that Wesak ceremony, and it was so inspiring. You really got some energy coming up, more energy than usual. And then during that sort of inspiration of the inner energy coming up, any hoarseness in my throat, any loss of energy, just was totally disappeared. And I was buzzing with energy and really happy. I remembered that teaching. Whatever you do, if you're really tired, don't just take a rest. Go out there and put more energy into whatever you're doing. It's weird, but I've seen this so many times. Even, sometimes people say I don't get much exercise, but I do. And a few years ago when I went to South Korea, it was to do a meditation and talks in the DMZ, that's the demilitarized zone between North Korea and South Korea. And having given a couple of talks, they asked the senior monks who were there, can one of you lead a quiet meditation, walking meditation, inside the DMZ? And of course that's very dangerous. There were 6,000 of us, and they wanted one senior monk to lead them, so that was me. I put my hand up, I'll do this walk, but they never told me how long the walk would be. And it was 4 hours. 4 hours in the DMZ. And that was very hot. And they never told me to get prepared, I just started walking. And after about 45 minutes, of course, you felt quite exhausted. But then, they offered, can we just give you a lift back? I said, no way. And so what I did, and it was weird, I decided to walk faster. Instead of to take a rest, but really put some energy into the walking. And it was weird, as soon as I started walking faster, so much energy started to come up, really good energy. And then I really sort of started walking, and some of the other ones behind me could hardly keep up. And I heard some junior monks who were with me at the front of the walk kept on saying that, wow, that's really amazing, that's samadhi. Samadhi is the meditation power. And it is, it's just the right attitude. It's amazing, even though you're sick or you're tired, it's amazing just what you can actually rouse inside of yourself. And that actually, you see that, I don't know, you can't explain it according to science, but certainly you can actually tap into that every now and again and get some really big boost of your energies where other people always seem to be so tired. So little by little we can learn how to be more alive and alert. And for me that is actually learning how to have more energy to serve others. So anyway, on that Wesak day I was really high. And of course you don't take any drugs. I don't think I even had much tea that day. But still, just the joy, especially of seeing the full moon. Seeing the full moon in the sky as we did the circumambulation, that was just so sweet and joyful. And those are the sorts of things that when you start understanding where energy comes from, and inspiration energy, that really gives you a huge boost to your meditation. Of course, I've used that so often. There are times when I was a young monk, you were with these really great monks or nuns, and you listen to them give talks, and sometimes they just really hit the spot. They're such sweet talks. And that was just, keep going on. It's like they were just giving bliss to your mind. You're just really joyful and joyful and joyful. And then after a time, you just want to meditate. And that's, of course, what you do. You start meditating, and the meditation really takes off through inspirational energy. Many times people will say they have sloth and torpor, a bit of boredom. They don't know how to generate that energy inside. And inspiration does give you that energy. I mean, it's a gorgeous energy. It's not like taking a cup of coffee which makes you your eyes pop out and makes you think too much. This gives you the energy and directs the mind to these beautiful places where you can focus on something which is just incredibly delightful. And because it's delightful, you don't need to focus at all. It's not that you look at these things or you focus on them, they draw you in. And when they draw you in, you can't ignore them, and they just give you so much peace and happiness, and they take you further into the bliss states. And the bliss states give you energy, and the energy just gives you like health, and the health does all sorts of wonderful things for your body and your mind, and just shows people that sometimes we talk way too much about sicknesses these days. Every time people start talking about COVID, and some people have got COVID, okay, fair enough. But we talk too much about it, and it's wonderful if we can sometimes think of not talking about the COVID, but thinking of other things instead, or talking about other things. Even today somebody asked me about fear. They're very fearful people. And this was a person who had a bad... I saw them, a lady who came, and she had almost a bald head, the hair was growing back, and I said to her straight away that either you're an ex-nun and you've disrobed, or that you've had cancer. And of course the cancer was much more likely. And I told the story of this lady in the Cancer Support Association, now called Solaris, over in Cottesloe. I go there every year. They come to monastery once a year as well, so I always meet each other twice a year. And I go there every year for the last 35 years, I think now, without missing one year. And the reason I go there, and they keep inviting me, was that when I first went there was one of the people there in question time asked a question. They said they'd had breast cancer, they'd had a mastectomy. It was very, very challenging for them, very painful and very worrying, but the doctors had got them into recession. So, the cancer couldn't be found. But they said, what would happen if it came again? I'm so worried and concerned, I don't think I could take it again. So the question was, what should I do, if it came back again? And that's when I gave her the answer, what would happen if it didn't come back? It's a very simple answer, but very, very powerful, because she'd never even thought of that before. It was always almost assuming it's going to come back. What would happen if it came back? And that kept her so worried. And of course that worry would make the chance of it coming back even more probable. And I added the story of that great philosopher. The philosopher, he used to live in England many years ago, and he had a good companion helping him with his philosophizing called Piglet. The actual philosopher was called Winnie the Pooh Bear. And it's a lovely story. Winnie the Pooh was walking back from Rabbit's house with Piglet on the way home, and there was a storm came up, and the winds were just so powerful. Here we go. No, it doesn't work. I'm trying to do some sound effects, but it doesn't work. Really hard, strong winds. First twigs were falling off, and then branches came crashing down, then whole trees came falling down. And little Piglet, being a small fellow, got more and more scared, and so little Piglet was grabbing Pooh's paw so hard and said, I can't go on, I'm so scared. It was like an anxiety attack. And he said, what would happen if a tree fell when we were underneath it? And that was a reasonable proposition, it could happen. But Winnie the Pooh had this incredible wisdom. And he said, you know that Winnie the Pooh, great wisdom, simple but nice and fat over here. Fat people I can always trust, they've got lots of wisdom. Is that true? Ajahn Chah was chubby. Anyway, I wonder who else is chubby. But anyway, Winnie the Pooh, his wisdom came up, and he said, what would happen if a tree did not fall on us when we were underneath it? Which was far more likely. And I remember that story so well. It really made a big impression on me, because that's how we look at life as monks. Yeah, these things can happen, but don't worry about them too much. If you're too afraid of these things happen, they drain your energy and actually makes those things more probable that may happen. Instead, you think, what would happen if the plane fell down, or you got COVID, or if a missile went out of control and hit Bodhinyana Monastery? I mean, sometimes people worry like that, and I say, what would happen if it didn't? And that actually cuts out the worry, and it makes it less likely it will happen. So this is one of the reasons why, that when you understand how to put energy into the moment and to be more positive, that these things don't happen to you and you have a much more happy life. Even simple things. Now, when I told this lady, so if you get sick, check your blood type. You know the best blood type to have? B positive. It's the best blood type. You got O, you got A, but B positive is the best. So anyway, little by little, that when we have a good attitude, we find out our health improves, and also our meditation improves, just our life improves. So that's one of the reasons why after many, many years, you just know how to meditate. And sometimes it's not really what you're watching, but how you're watching it. When I was in Singapore, many times people said, well, what happens if you do get sick? How can you meditate? Oh, when you're getting very old and you're on your deathbed or something, what should you do? And that's, again, when I brought up again one of those favourite stories which I first encountered as a student in a book by Count Leo Tolstoy. And it was about the Emperor's 3 questions. And over the years, having taught that, I changed it to a meditation method. And it's a brilliant meditation method. It's so simple, so concise, and highly effective. And it's the 3 questions, the 3 questions. When is the most important time? And the most important time is 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, when the monks can give you a talk. No, that's a joke. The most important time is now. It's the only time you ever have. And honestly, that if you're meditating, you think you've got a wandering mind, just wherever the mind goes, you go with it. Then you're always in this moment. If the mind goes over there and you stay here, of course, then you're separated and you're not in the moment anymore. So it's the same. I just came back from Singapore. I think next week I'm going to Melbourne for their Waisak ceremony. But I don't go anywhere. It's the aircraft does the flying. I just do the sitting. And to change your perception, you're not going anywhere. You're just sitting. Just what's around you changes. I'm always here. And that's just like meditation. Your mind may go to different places, different experiences, but you're always here. So just change the perception. It's always now. But sometimes that we think, I'm not in the right place. I'm in sleepiness or restlessness or whatever. And of course that's another fault. What is the right place? What is the most important meditation object? Now is the most important time. The most important meditation object, as you've heard me say before, is whatever is right in front of you right now. So whatever this is, it's already arrived, so it's important. Give it respect. Don't discriminate and think you should have jhanas and deep meditations and bright lights instead of just an ordinary breath or tiredness or whatever. Whatever's happening right now, be aware of it. Right now. And you can hardly go wrong that way. And next, the most important thing to do is not to cure things and get rid of problems in your life. That creates more problems. The only thing to do is to care. Whatever's happening right now, if it's not what you expect or not what you like, it's like a teacher for you. You're learning from it. And if you're caring for it, it'll get softer and softer and softer and more peaceful. And oh my goodness, you bliss out. Care is one of the great causes for the happiness inside. Just like when you care for each other in the world, just the world becomes a more beautiful place. Or like in hospitals, when people care for you, and they really do care for you. They're not just a statistic in their report to be filed later on, but you're actually a human being and people love you and care for you. It's amazing just how powerful that can be. So now is the most important time. Whatever you're aware of right now is the most important thing in the whole world. And you care for it. And little by little, nurturing it, caring for it, you find it gets so peaceful, so beautiful. And you can't resist it. It just draws you inside into beautiful, peaceful, happy places. And that's how we meditate. Very simple. So anyway, I hope you appreciated that. And now we can actually do a guided meditation for you all. Hope that's okay. Well, it's okay or not okay, I'm still going to do it. Very good. Here we go. So please get yourselves comfortable. Excellent. So over here in Perth, I'm just going to get the attendant to freeze the screen, so it looks like I'm meditating absolutely perfectly. No, I'm not going to freeze the screen. It's always active. I don't need to freeze the screen to be still. So I close my eyes, and please you close your eyes as well. And with your eyes closed, this is the present moment. This is the only time you ever have in the whole life. Just this moment. This is the center of your life, the heart of it, right now. Whatever happened in the past, you may think it's important, but we always distort the past. We distort it and we choose all the things we can remember from the past. We choose these things or that things to excite us or to justify stuff. Let the past disappear. It's not important. And if you have any guilt or anxiety about the past, please give it kindness. I look upon the past like it may be a dog who's done something wrong. I just pat it, forgive it. And the dog sort of loves me and just falls asleep. So the past just vanishes, disappears. And same for the future. I know from so many years of experience, if I really look after the present with lots of kindness, then my future turns out always to be very positive and healthy. And I understand what success is. Success is learning how to rest and be content right now. This is what I'm doing. So by looking after this present moment, I'm looking after all of time. And I do that with this body, to start off with. I actually choose my awareness to begin with, to first of all put it on my legs and my feet, sitting on a chair, which is not what I usually do. I usually sit on the floor, but here I am on the chair. I have to do this because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see me. And one of the things I love doing is actually with my sandals off and the shoes off, just feeling on the soles of my feet the texture of the carpet underneath. it's really beautiful. And I try and feel it more and more and more, and make my feet really comfortable. I just pull my feet in because that feels much more comfortable. And I feel the whole feet and really relaxed, no pressure on them, the heels, the ankles, and up the calves of my legs. I can feel all these sensations. I call them calf sensations because there's a particular feeling which is in my lower legs which isn't in any other part of my body. I get to know them. And they tell me that the calves are very well positioned and they're comfy. Same with my knees. I haven't had many accidents. My knees are pretty strong. But nevertheless, I always make sure that I'm kind to them when I'm mindful. Almost asking them, anything you need? And my knees respond by the feeling there gets more and more open, more and more relaxed, more and more free. Nothing is being squashed. And I go up to my thighs, feel them. And as I'm feeling those thighs, that they are a bit achy, I don't know why. But anyway, I'll just give them some kindness. And when I do, they start to relax. The kindness is a great therapeutic tool. It heals, relaxes, takes away the tightness which often may come from fear. And then move up to my buttocks, sitting on this chair. And out of those, for me today, they really do need to be adjusted because they're not comfy. So I'm going to just move my butt. And that feels, it does, it feels nicer. Feels more relaxed. And then past the butt to the waist. And to the back. The back is an important part of your body. It can cause you a lot of pain, or it can cause you a sense of inner strength. So I usually stretch my back and then relax it. And when it's relaxed, it feels good. It feels strong. And I know from experience, when my back feels like this, I can meditate for hours. But I go up my torso next, the insides, making sure all of my digestive system, the colon and the other intestines are all at ease. And my stomach and lungs. I deliberately relax those feelings. I've learned how to relax them because mindfulness gives you feedback. You do something and you know it's got more tense, or in this case it's got at ease. It's almost learning about your body and how to keep it at ease. And then go up to the shoulders, relaxing those, and down the arms and the hands. Deliberately relaxing everything and never taking any part of your body for granted. Even go to my hands. It's like I ask them with my mindfulness, are you comfortable? When I know they are, then I can move on. And go back to my shoulders and my neck. My throat, it was really itchy a couple of days ago. Now it's just powerful. That's the word I use. And then I go to the front of my face, because the front of my face, it carries the feelings, what I call the counter feelings of the emotions. If I'm afraid, those muscles, they contort in a particular way so people can see I'm afraid. And if I'm kind, they change into the manifestation of kindness. So I know those muscles when they change, and I put them into a configuration of peace and kindness. And that really helps at the start of the meditation. But before I go into the mind, I now perceive the whole body, from the toes, up the legs, to the butt, up the back and the torso, down the arms and the neck and the head, all together. Making sure each part is relaxed and at ease. And I do that because if there's one part of my body I've missed out, it will actually create a disturbance. I don't want that to happen, but also I want to make my body know that it's cared for, each part of it. And then I usually wait until I get this feeling, call it the delightful feeling in the body. I'm not sure if each one of you could experience that, the delightful feeling of relaxation. But it really helps me become more relaxed. And it's something which happens when you come more in this moment, more peaceful. The feeling of delight starts to arise. It makes the meditation so pleasant. It becomes so joyful that you don't need to focus anymore. You just like staying here. You never need to focus on a beautiful sunset. It just draws you into it. You can't take your eyes off it. Just like you can't take mindfulness away from the delight of peace. And then you go into peace itself. How peaceful are you? Now you're beginning to experience something which belongs in the mind. Peace. And you know from all the times you've listened to these talks before, how peace becomes more powerful, more deep, more strong. In this present moment now is the most important time. What are you aware of right now? In this moment, what is the content of your mind? That's what you are aware of. It's natural. So you don't try and go somewhere else or think, no, I shouldn't be here, I should be somewhere else. Don't judge this moment. Care for it. You're in this beautiful kindness. Present moment, you've come to teach me, and I embrace you. I open the door of my heart to this moment as it is. You don't want it to be anything different. You're just caring for it. If it's not very nice, it's like you're caring for a sick child. Sometimes some experiences are difficult to bear. That's why when you give it a little bit of kindness, it really warms to you. like people who are disfigured or deformed. When you give them kindness, or they stay with you so peacefully. So be kind to this moment, no matter what it is. And that delight which you may have felt with your body is now in your mind. The delightful present moment. And don't try and give it a name. See if you leave all the words for later. You don't need words to see the beautiful full moon we had yesterday or the day before. They just stop words. You don't need to describe it. It's right there in front of you. You just enjoy it. Peace. Descriptions destroy peace. Silence maintains and protects it. The only awareness you have is in this moment. So don't be afraid of where this is going to go. Don't worry about losing things or gaining things. You have this moment, and that's all you need. I'm going to be quiet now. Hopefully I've pushed you in the right direction. Now is the most important time. The only time. The thing right in front of you is the best meditation object in the whole world. Whatever this is. And the most important thing to do is just to care. Nothing more. I will now be silent. in this moment. How do you feel? What is the content of your mind right now? If it's peaceful, don't try and intellectualize it, but know it with your emotions. To see its beauty, its safety, and its connection to love. Beautiful silence. It's all right now. And as you start to emerge from your meditation, you start to feel your body. Like your body is this shell around you. And even though you've paid it very little attention while you've been watching your mind, the body usually feels so relaxed and so open. It's hard to experience anything as relaxed as this without the stillness inside the mind. As your body's starting to turn on again, coming out from the peace, out into the world. I do have the gong next to me. I will ring it 3 times. When the 3rd chime from the gong starts to disappear, that's the signal to come out from the meditation. There we go. And thank you for allowing me to meditate as well. I really enjoy this. So, now's the opportunity once you come more out of the meditation and the brain starts to work again, for any questions. Okay, Chris, over to you.
Okay, well, if any of you would like to ask any questions, now is your opportunity. So you can either ask questions by putting them in the chat or just simply by unmuting yourself. So is there anyone who has a question they would like to ask? I have a question. Certainly, Patrick. So, Patrick?
Yes?
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Do you experience energy of Kundalini?
On Kundalini, we don't usually do much with Kundalini, but sometimes when you get into some meditation, sometimes the energy can arise in different parts of your body. But a lot of times, I found for the health and the strength of the body, is to actually let that type of energy appear in the mind, not in the body. And in the Buddhist meditation I was taught and practiced, we look at that type of energy, which is like Kundalini energy, as a little bit of a disturbance. It's like energy which belongs in the mind, leaking out into the body. And if it stays in the mind, it does much, much better benefits for you. And of course, the mind is not the brain. The mind is something deep inside of you. And every time I come out of a nice meditation, my body feels so great. It's as if the healing powers of stillness are much better than the healing powers of like big energy inside of you. So I always prefer the energy to stay inside. Another question?
Yes, Gloria has a question. Gloria, would you like to ask your question now?
Hi.
So, before the meditation, you talk about that you should follow your thoughts so that you will stay in the present. But to me, it sounds a little bit contradictory, because when I I think about the future, and then I follow the thoughts, and I will feel like I'm not in the present moment. Does it make sense? Yes.
Yeah.
So.
But first of all, well done on Sunday, Gloria, because I remembered your name, because you joined our BSWA by taking the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. So well done. But no, this is a different way of learning how to be in the present moment. What are wandering thoughts going off into the future? You have some idea of the future, but are you experiencing it in this moment? You know, people are always here. It's a different way of perceiving. And so that you're even thinking of the past, but you realize you're thinking about that now. You don't caught up in the fantasy of the past or the dream worlds of the future. You actually know what you're doing. And as long as you know what you are doing, you find you can't actually get lost in the past or the future. It's almost you making the past or the future now. It's your thoughts, not the feelings of the body or the sounds happening right now, but in the world of the thoughts. And after a while, that actually brings you back into the present moment. So it's that type of meditation now the most important time. And whatever you're experiencing is the most important in the whole world. And you care for it. People criticize themselves or their meditation way too much. And so if you're off in the future, think, I shouldn't be there. That's wrong. And that makes you just lose a lot of energy and a lot of self-kindness. But if you just allow this moment to be just this moment, and you don't want anything in the whole world except just what's happening right now, you find you soon get incredibly peaceful. You come into the moment. And it's strange, but if you try and label something, this is the past or this is the future, and then you have work to do to bring it back into what you think is a present moment, then you find that you never get peaceful. It's a nice experiment to do, to see if you can understand what I mean. But otherwise, people wander off so much, and they never get peaceful. Give it a try. One thing I think you know, that I know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn. Tony has a question too.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ajahn. That was lovely. Ajahn, can you just talk a little bit about more the importance or the unimportance of when sensations, when you have aches or tingles or itches when you're meditating? My understanding is that one has to not respond to them or react to them and just maintain that equanimity. Is that, am I on the right path with that, Ajahn?
It depends on what those aches and pains or sensations are. Because sometimes when you're meditating, like meditating cross-legged on the floor, sometimes, your legs ache when you start meditating, and that's a good time. It tells me that I've not put my legs in a good position, and I just move them. I only move them once, very slightly, and then that pain has disappeared and it's gone. I just go back in my meditation. I lose 1 or 2 minutes of progress, but I catch that up very quickly and go beyond it. There's some pains when it's okay to move. There's other pains which is not going to get you anywhere, like a mosquito on you. If a mosquito is biting you and you try to flick it off, it'll just go out and bite you in another place. So those sorts of pains, you learn how just to make peace with them. It's part of life. So you don't fight it. You don't think that's something wrong. And that's where you have this beautiful sense of embracing what's happening to you. And they soon disappear by themselves. You're caring for your body, and the body gets really peaceful and still disappears. So you have to know which itch is what ache is what, and after a while those aches can totally vanish. And that's brilliant, it's beautiful when you're just sitting there and just you can't feel the body. So peaceful and blissed out inside.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay. Next question.
Oh yes, Laura Lee, do you have a question? No? Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question? It's a lovely opportunity to speak directly.
I have a question.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you, Ajahn Brahm, and thank you for telling that story. I've heard it before about the sweeping from Ajahn Chah. If you're going to sweep, give it everything you've got. I've heard it before, but I heard it differently today. So I really appreciate just that you told it. And I heard you talk today about patience and energy and kindness, and it reminded me, I've heard disciples trained with Ajahn Chah where he would say to them, endure. And I wanted to endure when they were going through something. And I was wondering if you could speak about endurance with this process of energizing the mind with patience and kindness, and how, I hope that makes sense to you, but I'm curious about that when he talks about endure with all that comes with and maintaining energy and kindness and patience.
Yes. The word he used was otton. And because I know Ajahn Chah, I was with him for 9 years, and I was a close disciple, so I know exactly what he means. And sometimes the Thai words, sometimes he used Laotian words. And that means that to just keep on going. It doesn't mean just to seek out pain, because sometimes, I don't know what it is in religious life, and sometimes people like to whip themselves or nail themselves onto crosses at Easter time, and that's actually madness. It has nothing to do with religious life. And to endure is only when there's no other way of dealing with things. But as you're enduring, don't just endure, find out why, what's going on. It's just that teaching of now's the only time you have, and what you're experiencing right now might not be pleasant. But then you look at it more deeply and with care, and it turns to something pleasant. So it's not just enduring and hoping things will go away. It's actually being a bit more proactive. The obvious story was the one about the anger-eating monster, which I love telling because it's just a powerful, powerful story. That people were out in their meditation group or went to the temple, and especially this empress, she went to the temple, and while she was in the temple, this really ugly monster came right into her palace, into her throne room, and sat in the empress's chair. It was such a frightening monster that all of the security, they hid behind the flower pots, in the cupboards, under the tables. They were terrified of this monster, until the monster sat in the empress's chair, and at that point they said, "Get out of here, you don't belong. If you don't get out now, you'll be in big trouble." And they started to raise their voices and say really nasty words. But every unkind word, unkind thought, or unkind deed, the monster got bigger, more ugly, more smelly, more offensive. And they made him even more upset. "You better get out quick, our Empress is coming back soon." And then soon this monster was huge and so ugly and so smelly that even the maggots crawling on the monster's skin got sick and threw up. So it was a pretty sort of bad smell. But anyway, the reason why the lady was the Empress, because she was smarter than everybody else. When she came in and she saw this huge, ugly, stinky monster in her chair, she said, "Welcome. Thank you for coming to visit me." Even though the monster was unpleasant to look at, ugly and stinky and hard to endure, the Empress welcomed her, or him, or it. And with those words of welcome, they were sincere. The monster just grew an inch smaller, and at that, everybody else got the message. So some of them gave the monster a foot massage, some got them a cup of tea, some said, "We got coffee if you like coffee," or "We've got all sorts of health drinks. What would you like?" They get him a shoulder massage. Someone he ordered a pizza. The only reason they got a pizza for him because you get monster-sized pizzas. But every kind word, kind act, or kind thought, the monster just grew an inch smaller, less violent, less ugly. And soon the kindness was so much, the monster was back to the size when it first came in. And they continued with the kindness until the monster grew so small, the one more act of kindness and the monster disappeared totally. And when the Buddha told that story with a lot of additions by me, like pizzas and stuff, he said that's called an anger-eating monster. You get out of here, you don't belong, it just gets worse. So it's not just about enduring, it's about using your wisdom and to see, why do you have to endure? Is there something you can do about this? And of course it's adding that kindness to the situation. And that kindness to the situation is amazing. I've seen so many amazing cases of people's cancers disappearing and stuff. And it's amazing that kindness is almost irresistible to all the problems in life, so you don't have to endure anymore. So please don't just go enduring, learning, and then you turn enduring back to enjoying. Those two words are very close, but I prefer the enjoying than enduring. Okay, is that okay? Answer? Okay.
Thank you.
Next question.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you too. Martha has a question. Martha, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you so much for everything all the time, not just today. Appreciate y'all so much. All right, Donna, just specific guidance if you could. And she just did a lot about turning endurance into enjoying, and it is so helpful to learn from you guys. You know, if you're going to sweep, you know, everything you've got, it does work so much. There is one thing about, you said, okay, hold on, when you're tired, okay, so if you're really tired, go out and give it everything you've got, don't rest. Can you give some guidance about when one should choose to rest versus going out and giving it 100% of what you've got? Is there a good guideline for that? As a woman, I know I don't even have kids, and I still have a tendency to put so much energy out there for everybody else. E.g., that is, for example, this morning I'm trying to take care of a couple different things, and my goal today was just to do, 10 minutes of yoga before my first meeting this morning, and that did not happen because I was trying to take care of everything else. So I don't know if you could give some good guidance about when to rest and when to go out there to give it your all.
Yes, well, it's time to rest. Give rest everything you've got. So after a while, you realise that you count, you're important. And you can't help others if you're just really tired and you get grumpy And your body and your mind just don't work properly. And you know that many times. The best way you can help others is take a good rest for yourself. You count. It's the simile which I often use is whenever I do marriage ceremonies and I look at the bride and say, you're now a married woman, you must not think of yourself. I look at the husband, say, you're now a married man, you must not think of yourself. Still looking at the husband, I say, from this moment on, you must not think of your wife. Don't think of her. And I tell the wife, from this moment on, you must not think of your husband. You must not think of your partner, nor must you think of yourself. If you're married, you must only think of us. Together. So whatever you're doing in life, whatever business you're doing, it's not about your clients, it's not about you, it's always about us. And so when you put yourself in that equation as an equal partner, no matter what you're doing, it makes life much easier to understand what needs to be done. When you do it, then you give it everything you've got. That make sense?
Thank you. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question.
And yes, we have a question from Sarah in the chat. My thoughts used to cause me stress. I no longer have those thoughts, but the stress can still be triggered. Is there a way to clear this?
Yes, well, understand what does trigger stress. And of course, a lot of stress is triggered by fear. Sometimes fear what other people think of you, or just the habitual feeling that stress caused me problems in the past, is going to cause me problems again. So find out the cause of the stress, and a lot of times you find out that cause is not reasonable and it's not necessary. There are times when you have stress. If you're being chased by a tiger in the jungle, fair enough, feel stress. You have to run very fast. But most of the time in our life, we stress out for no real reason, no benefits. And that causes us this bad habit of always getting afraid and always thinking that we're being challenged, that people are after us, or that life is not fair. And after a while, when you maybe get a bit older and then you look at life, this is life, it happens. And so you're not so stressed about life. Every time, if I got my rope here, I start to stretch it and stress it. Of course, that's going to break eventually. As long as I leave this rope nice and loose, it'll last a long time. And it's also, I love that simile of the guitar string. If a guitar string is stretched, even a small thing hits it, bing! But if the guitar string is loose, a big object hits it, it makes no noise. Because it's loose. It's called resilience. So after a while you grow in resilience and all that stress tends to disappear. Obviously the thoughts have disappeared, but the tightness in the mind is still there. So loosen that through meditation, then you find you don't have stress anymore, which means you're far more resilient. People can criticize you, they can hurt you, but they can't really hurt you. Because you've got no so tightness in your body or in your mind. They can call you whatever they like. They don't know who you are. So little by little you get so resilient, people can't even harm you. Okay, another question?
Yes, do we have another question? We're welcoming another question if anyone would like to ask. Oh yes, we do. Samantha, sorry, then beyond. Samantha, would you like to unmute and ask your question, please?
Yes, please. Does that mean that always that I should be patient and no matter what, and even though I'm getting hurt by others, should I always be patient and not react and be always be kind.
It depends.
And,
It depends on how you're being hurt by others. Whether they're just being threats, words are not so harmful. But always be careful of the shoulds and the shoulds and the shoulds. It's like making rules for your life. I should do this and should do that. Your mind is usually much better to be able to react to the moment without any shoulds. And you find this is the right thing to do. And you give it a go and it usually works. What came into my mind was that many years ago when I visited my mother in London, and I was also giving a talk that evening in the Sri Lankan temple, which was about an hour's walk away. I knew the area, I grew up there. So I went down the road, and plenty of time to get to the temple. But I forgot that on that route there was this housing estate, like a hotbed of crime according to the police. Lots of young people there were migrants. And when I went past the entrance, the kids were starting to congregate. And I don't know what they were planning to do that evening, but they saw me coming down the road and they started to chant, Buddha, 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 trying to scare me. Now I had a choice. I could turn around and go another way across the other side of the road, but no, that's not my character. So I just calmly just walked straight towards them. And as I got closer and closer, Buddha, 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 the chanting got louder and quicker. And there was quite a few of them. These were tough guys, like a gang. And as I got even closer, those of you who've known me for a long time know just my strategies. Then I did see this program when I was a layperson called Kung Fu. That's the only Kung Fu I knew. So I put my hands up in a Kung Fu pose. And they saw I had a bald head, had a brown robe on, I was a monk. I was much younger in those days, did a Kung Fu pose. It must have been pretty convincing, because these kids, they just parted. And I just walked right through them with my Kung Fu pose. They never attacked me at all. Maybe pushing my luck, I'm not sure, but it worked. So you don't need to endure or just to get upset. You just use other ways of being peaceful and people can't harm you. So you don't need to be harmed, but you can actually be much better. You don't need to fight back even. Just get a Kung Fu pose and just walk straight through them. It was really ridiculous what I did then, but it worked. You understand why? You had no fear.
Ajahn, we now go from Sydney to Paris and Fion. Fion, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Ah, good. Hi.
Thank you, Ajahn, for serving us tirelessly. I saw you last time in Perth with the Singaporean group in 2019 before COVID.
Oh, yes.
And you didn't just change my life, but all the people around me, because I've become a bit more bearable. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. It's a very, very long journey, I think, to forward, but I'm working on it. Thank you very much.
And that's an important thing to remember. When you help somebody else, their life changes for the better. And we meet so many other people every day, hundreds, thousands of people in our lifetimes, and we help each one of those. We may not think we're an evangelist, but because you change, you're a kinder, better, more peaceful person. And it is, you can't help it but to change other people's lives. And again, a lot of times for the better. So it's a great privilege, so well done. But then you keep on practicing there and tell other people just to be kinder, better. And you can live a wonderful life, and a life of just happiness no matter what you're doing. You don't all need to be monks and nuns. Thank goodness, because we're always having trouble finding enough space for people here. But anyway, you live your life out there in the world and do lots of good work and help others. Another question?
Yes, do we have another question? We're welcoming another question. We can definitely squeeze another question in if someone would like to ask. We don't seem to be any more questions coming to the chat.
Pinder, Pinder's got a question.
Oh, Pinder, lovely.
It's just an observation, Ajahn, about the question about the wandering mind when you're meditating.
Yeah.
Your thoughts going to the future or the back. And what I used to do was, if there's a thought for the future, I said, oh no, that's the future, that's okay, no worries. Let's get back. So the object was the breath, and come back to the breath. But that's that little break in what you say today. It's just the change in the perception of the observation.
Yes.
So if your mind wanders off and you just think of it in the present, and then you don't have to drag it back to the object again.
Yes.
I find that much easier.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So thanks for that. Thank you. And it's good to hear you in good voice since Normara last Friday.
Excellent, yeah. No, just these teachings, they really help me. And it's lovely to share them with others. And just, again, I'm still high from just the wayside and just the power of the Dhamma, how it brings people together from so many different lands, and how powerful it is to be part of that. And you don't feel tired at all when you teach. You feel just this huge burst of blissful energy. It's peaceful, it's beautiful. So thank you for encouraging that in me. Wonderful.
And I think Rudy is being modest, so she was at she did the precepts, I think, on Vesak Day as well.
Oh, yes.
She's here as well.
Oh, excellent, yeah. It's a joy to be able to do that. And some of those precepts, you think it's ceremonies, but it's beautiful. And we've been doing this for 2,500 years, this Vesak ceremony and the precepts. And I remember just me taking precepts as a layperson, how much that helped and gave you lots of protection. It's one of the reasons why you can walk through these very dangerous young men just in London by yourself, and just when they're chanting Buddha, Buddha, Buddha at you, and they can never harm you. Your precepts, your goodness, your kindness, it protects you.
And Catherine Ajahn would also like to ask a question. Catherine?
Yeah.
Hello, Ajahn. It's not so much to ask a question, but I was a little concerned with Samantha's question, and I was listening to your answer, and one of the things that occurred to me was that you did take action to look after yourself. Samantha's question was about you just let people hurt you.
Oh, no, yeah.
And be patient.
Yeah.
And what I heard you saying was that you were taking action to look after yourself in that situation. It was a very funny story and a very strange situation, but you were still looking out for yourself. You weren't just letting people hurt you. So that was the message I heard. Just wanted to pass that on.
Yes, that's true. I thought I didn't really answer the question totally to Samantha, but nevertheless, don't let yourself be vulnerable to people hurting you. If they keep saying things to you which are just totally inappropriate, that's only hear the stuff which is appropriate. If it's a close member of your family or friends, one of the wonderful strategies is to ignore their stupid statements. I mean, really ignore them. But when they really say something which is good, appropriate, then you just go and give them a big hug or smile to them and say thank you. So over-respond with the positive reinforcements, but don't give negative reinforcements. People like praise. They don't like to be criticised, but if you criticise them, they say that, you're wrong, you're bad. But they can't criticise you when you give them praise for the good things which they do. And little by little, those good qualities start to improve. If it's something like physical stuff, then you should move out of the way. There's an old saying, which in Chinese, to love the tiger, but at a distance. You don't go around hugging tigers. You get your arms bit off
Yes, I think that's an excellent point, especially in the year of the tiger, Ajahn.
Yeah.
Ajahn, Jennifer has a question in the chat.
Yes.
Do you have any tips on how to make meditation a daily practice? And she sends much gratitude to you, Ajahn. And then if we could make this maybe our last question, and then Ajahn, could I prevail on you to offer us all a blessing this evening after this question?
Certainly. And of course, how to make it a daily practice. Do you make eating as a daily practice? Of course, eating it makes a daily practice because it's important to you. And so by giving meditation importance, it's what we call food for the heart. If you don't eat food for the body, of course you get very sick, you can't do anything in this world. That's why meditation is food for the heart, spiritual food. And that's why it's so important to do. To be able to do it every day, first of all, make sure you've got a place to do it. A comfortable place. Don't just try and find a quiet place in your house or apartment. Make a quiet place there, first of all. When you make the quiet place, so it's there for you whenever you need it. And then the nice thing to do is, if you can, get up early in the morning. Because early in the morning it's always quiet. Late in the evening, the people have got TVs on, they're shouting, got music on. But in the morning it's usually a peaceful time. That's the best time to meditate. And if you're working in some sort of office somewhere, you can always find a cupboard, and just take all the papers and stuff out of the cupboard and meditate in there. And like some companies have meditation rooms. It's wonderful to go in those rooms. They have them there because they know that's important for their staff's well-being. And notice that if you do meditate every day, you do have that understand this is food for the heart. You find you're much healthier physically and certainly mentally. Mental health is a big issue in Australia, actually throughout the whole world. Why? And one of the reasons is because people don't meditate enough. They're always so tight inside their mind. There's no resilience, and so sometimes you do get damaged. So after a while, when you meditate more still, more peaceful, more kind, you're a much better human being. And you can feel that. So find the time, find the space, and look upon it as eating. I don't think any of you will go without food for a day. So don't go without meditation for a day. Okay, and a blessing for you all. Because it's Waisak, a couple of days ago, the moon is still full, and I've still got all that energy inside my heart. This is a blessing for you all on Waisak. Nati me saranang anyang buddho me saranang varang etena satchawajena sotite hotu sabada Nati me saranang anyang Dhammo me saranang varang etena satchawajena sotite hotu sabada Nati me saranang anyang Sangho me saranang varang etena satchawajena sotite hotu sabada. May you all be happy and well and at peace, free of COVID, and have beautiful meditations as each one of you deserve.